This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group and your host of Washington Calling, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today, we are fortunate to have a distinguished guest, and his name is Mr. Arun Anand, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of the Indraprastha Vishwa Samvad Kendra. I may not have pronounced it correctly, but I made my I tried my best. Thank you, Arun, for coming to our show and welcome to our show. And how are you? Happy New Year to you. We're delighted to have you on our show. And Arun, thank you for your
Uh,
leadership.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Islam. Thank you
leadership.
for inviting me.
You're most welcome, sir. Thank you, Arun, for your leadership during the tough, turbulent, and challenging times in India. It looks like the India's democratic light is flickering as India is going through political and social unrest and a constitutional crisis. India, to me, has always been a beacon of hope for aspirations, for dream, and for democracy around the globe. We are the largest democracy in the world. Your views and values and vision are important to our audience. We meet at an hour of a change and challenge. We meet at the hour while India is facing international isolation. We meet at the hour where the fire of discord is burning. We meet at the hour when India is going through some time. But let me say this, India's future depends on the foundation of inclusiveness and tolerance. We want India to be unifying nationalism rather than religious nationalism. And I'm proud to be Indian Americans, and my story can only happen in America because America given me the opportunity to succeed. Is America's inclusiveness and the openness that provided me the opportunity to succeed. These are the values and the strength and qualities of America that India and all of us can proudly and truly embrace. And all of us are in this together. And together we can help shape a better future for India to make India to be strong, better, tolerant, inclusive. Let us not tear apart the harmonious fabric of India. So, Mr. Anand, tell us a little bit about your organization's aims, goals, and objectives. Floor is yours, Arun.
Mr. Islam, first, thank you for inviting me, and I wish a very happy new year to you, your family, friends, and all our viewers.
Very
I
nice.
think it's a privilege to be here, and I would try to answer all the questions as honestly as I can. But let me begin with the caveat that I'm not the official spokesperson of either the government or the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is heading the ruling coalition. Neither am I official spokesperson of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, that is RSS. However, the organization which I head is an RSS affiliated media think tank. It is based in Delhi. It was set up about 1.5 decade ago. I have been here looking after the work of this think tank for the last about 3 years. And the work which our organization does is we try to create different communication platforms, we try to build up dialogues and put forward a certain viewpoint which the what we call the nationalistic thought supports. Our belief is that there are two ideas of India, and there's one idea which said that India is basically a conglomeration of various subnationalities. And the other viewpoint is that no, we are a civilization with uh, certain what you call eternal values, and we have been there for the last 5,000 years. So we support this particular viewpoint, the second viewpoint which I have said, and we try to we try to create communication platforms, build dialogue, convey facts and figures about certain issues. So this is what we do.
Very good. So this is the think tank. It's designed to disseminate some of the ideology that you just said very eloquently. And it's a political powerful political tool, as we have in America, Brookings Institute and many, which is a liberal, which is I'm a board member, and also many other organizations in the United States and around the world. So tell us, Arun, how do you sustain this organization? From where do you get your financial support? And do you get any support from the Indian government? I would hope that's not the case.
Mr. Islam, this organization is run by a trust, and it's purely on voluntary basis. And in fact, I myself work as a volunteer there, and I don't draw any salary, but we do have, of course, professionally paid staff. We do not take any support from the government of India. We also even do not take any financial support from RSS or Bharatiya Janata Party or any other political party. It's purely on the basis of contribution made by the citizens who are concerned and who want this kind of organization to be there to, as I said, build the communication matrix.
So this is so how do you ensure that you're not serving the personal and political interest of your donor?
It's basically, we are actually not taking any money from any of the institutions also. So it's only the contributions come in the form of donations from individuals. And these
Okay.
donations are very small donations. There is no major, what you call, we don't get a substantial amount of money from any particular individual or any particular donor. So that's how we are able to maintain our freedom, and we are able to do what we want to do.
Very good. So that's a very well said. I wanted to have you shed some bright lights. As you know, there has been a lot of protests, not only in India, on many countries about the Citizenship Amendment Act, National Register of Citizens, and internment camp. What is your take on this controversial subject? And how do you tell a 102-year-old person who's a Muslim in Assam that you have to prove that you're a citizen of this country, which I saw somewhere? It may be wrong. There are a lot of things going on. And why the religion and politics are mixed together in the United States, the separation of church and state. And then I will talk to you a little bit about what Foreign Minister of India, the ex-Foreign Minister said, and then we can shed some light. Can we have a little bit of discussion on that?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Looking forward.
Sure. Go ahead.
See, first, let me tell you one thing. As far as I understand this whole controversy which has been going around, and we have seen some reports in foreign newspapers also, and of course, a lot of people are
Now,
concerned about it.
A lot of international
Yeah,
isolation is there.
yeah, yeah. So
Even
I
the
would
even the
agree.
foreign
I think
minister,
we can agree to
even the foreign
disagree on that.
minister. Go ahead. Go ahead. I apologize. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, so I think we can agree to disagree on that. That as far as that India is facing a major isolation, but we can come to that later. But first, see, the issue is that what this government is doing, it is not doing anything new. For example, if you take CAA, that is Citizenship Amendment Act. So right since the independence, even Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, even Sardar Patel, who was the first Home Minister, and after that, even Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So all of them have been on record saying that people who are suffering from religious persecution in our three neighboring countries, so they should be granted the status of citizens here. So but no, unfortunately, what has happened over the last 70 years or 70 odd years, ever since India got independence, we became a very status quoist society. And there were governments who were coming, they were not paying, they were only paying lip service. They were not actually translating their manifestos into government policies. Now, when BJP got elected in 2019, so all these issues are already there in the party's manifesto. It has got the mandate to do that. And it's ironical that when a political party in India now starts implementing its manifesto, so then questions are raised about the credibility or the intentions of the government. So I would say some people are getting a little unnerved about it, because these two leaders, Amit Shah, who is the Home Minister, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, so they are trying to break the status quo. That is why you see a series of decisions on that. One. Second is that when you said about the 102-year-old gentleman in Assam who will have to produce the papers. Now, as far as NRC is concerned, see, it's not that this government has done it on its own. It is on the directives of the Supreme Court, and that this NRC thing has been implemented. So whatever this government has done, it is on the directives of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has given these directives because the in 1980s, the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, who was heading a Congress government, not a BJP government, he had signed Assam Accord with the agitating organizations there. So to implement the Assam Accord, NRC had to be set up. It was part of the accord. And when it was not being done, then Supreme Court directed the government to do it. So this is the situation.
Okay, so thank you for your history lessons. Past is a history, not a destiny, correct? And if the US government decides to say today that we do not want to welcome anyone except Christians, no Hindus, no Muslims, would you take them as a people, which is 4 million wonderful Indian Americans, to India because they will be religiously prosecuted? What about the fact that the Ahmadiyya Muslims and Shia in Pakistan are discriminated, face hostility and prejudice and discrimination? What about the Catholic in Ireland? What about the Palestinians in Israel? And what about in Burma? And what about the Muslims in the China? So we do not want to become we do not we do as I understand that we do not want to become a guardian or protector of the Hindu faith around the globe. So let me quote what he said. And I do not know him. I never met him. I'm sure. And I am not in India. I left India when I was 10 years old. That was 50 years ago. Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon, I think he was a foreign minister or foreign secretary, Arun. He was a foreign, yeah. He said, India is violating the Article 21 of the International Covenant on Civic and Political Rights by passing the Citizenship Amendment Act. And he is saying that India is in violations of the international commitment. He also said that India, just like the Pakistan, has become now, which is a religiously driven and intolerant country, and which is what the power to be said the same thing. They always try to divide the people based on but we do not. India has always a secular country, and we take a pride in India, what India has been able to accomplish. And I love India, just like you do. We want India to prosper, to have upper mobility, to bring the people together. But the fact of the matter is, we do not want to be like Pakistan is, and nobody should be, right? So let me change a little bit our conversation, and thank you very much for all you have said, and that's your views and your vision, and that's what creates a common cause in a democracy. That's how democracy flourishes. And India touts itself as the largest democracy in the world, and we can talk about whether there's a freedom of press and freedom of expressions and the respect for human rights some other times. But let me say that why has there been so much protest across India, especially by the student community? And I just read an article in New York Times. The violent backlash from UP police has been the most deadly and troubling and alarming. Police in UP are accused of abusing Muslims, and basically they're taking away their property. Whether right or wrong, I do not know. I'm sure you will agree that protest is a sign of India's democracy and democratic values. As you know, India is facing largest unemployment rate. India should be concentrating on bringing the people together, creating a job, attracting the foreign investment, giving a hope to our younger generations, and they are the hope of tomorrow. This protest is fueled by frustrations, and sometimes a lot of people feel hatred and bigotry. Your comment, Arun. That's what the newspaper says.
Yes. See, first, let me talk about Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon. See, he has already been, as far as I know, he has already taken political sides. He has been supporting a particular political party, which is Congress, which is in opposition. So I wouldn't take his comment beyond a point in on face value. It's more of a political statement which he has made. But of course, he has every right to make that statement if he feels like
Right.
that. Second, as far as Muslims are concerned, as you said that whether it's Ahmadiyas and not why only Ahmadiyas, there are Shias, there are Bohras, there are
But hold on.
yeah. So that's fine. So nobody is stopping them from taking citizenship of India. Nobody is stopping them from taking asylum in India. They can apply for that through the Citizenship Act, which has a process of that you have to have there is a process in which you have to be naturalized resident of
But
this country for about
why
11
does
or
it
12
have to
years.
be that you said in the citizenship amendment? I do not know, but I heard the people say that, and I've not read it. And you are on the ground in India. Why say except Muslims? Why not say including anyone? I just made the point about the Christians. This country can stand up today and say, you know what? We're going to welcome all the Christians, no Hindus. Are you going to take all of them? So why is it controversial things? And I don't really know what's going on with the Supreme Court, but that has fueled protests and frustrations, and it's diverting the attentions of India to be the largest democracy, to be the place where we can invest money and we can build prosperity for our children. And how do you tell a young Muslim or any boy who lives in a slum, who cannot drink the water because it's contaminated, who cannot breathe the air because it's a toxic and unhealthy, who have no hope, who have no job? How do you tell them that this is a great bill for them? And how do you tell the Muslims in India that you do have a place in BJP-led government? I know you're not a BJP spokesperson, but you subscribe to their ideology and their ideals. It's very troubling.
See, yeah, yeah, I see. There has been a lot of misinformation campaign on this thing. I would just like, I'll just try to clarify certain things and put them in perspective. See, one, these things have got nothing to do with Muslims in India. One, second thing is that there are already about more than
Well,
15 million
how do you
religious.
tell a Muslim? I'm a minority. I was a minority in India. I'm a minority in the United States. I feared hostility and prejudice. I couldn't drink the water from the same well. So I understand and the discrimination and hostility they face. And the soccer committee made it very clear that they're not part of there's not a single Muslim member of the cabinet in India except the minority affairs minister. India, Canada, which is a good friend of mine, Mr. Trudeau, Justin Trudeau is the prime minister, has a more Sikh and a minority that India has in his own cabinet. So how do you
See,
tell? I mean, it's very clear, as I see it, and as a foreigner, that this is not a sustainable thing to do. It's a
see,
divisive, it's a polarized.
no,
Go
it
ahead.
has been projected as that thing. One is that there is no discrimination largely in India that Muslims cannot drink from the same well or from the same.
Well, I couldn't
Uh,
when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I
yeah, but
couldn't.
that is not the case now, and we also have problem. And why only Muslim? Actually, within Hinduism also, we
Dalit,
have had
yes.
this caste related issues, and these issues are still there. And of course, we accept that, and we need to work on that. That's not, but Muslims are not discriminated on the basis of that. Okay, if they are Muslims, so they cannot drink from the. I have been born and brought up in Delhi. I've been traveling throughout the country for the last 2.5 decades as a journalist also. So, in a large country like India, there are such some incidents, but not with Muslims. They have largely basically happened within what you call the some of the castes within Hinduism. One. Second is uh, this. See, right now India is going through a stage where there is a battle of narratives which is going on.
What
So
is it called?
every opportunity, yeah, there is a battle of narratives, and the narrative battle of narratives is, as
Oh,
I explained,
so
it's
it's
the
it's a
ideal of
narrative,
India.
you said.
Yeah. Second is, no, there's very important thing. As far as the viewpoint which I represent, the ideology to which I adhere, we do not see India as divided between the majority and the minority. For us, see, 99% of the Muslims in India, they were largely converted 3 to 4 generations ago, or probably 5 or 6 generations ago. But largely,
Doesn't
all of
matter.
them otherwise are in the same society. So we do not look at it like, okay, that if he has become a Muslim, his way of worship might have changed, but he still remains as much Indian, or in fact, I would say as much Hindu as he was earlier. So we do not look at it, but the opposition, because BJP and RSS, so there were certain stereotypes which were cultivated over a period of time, because and it's very unfortunate that in India we were not able to develop a very progressive Muslim leadership. Muslims are in fact more fragmented than ever, and we do not have credible Muslim leadership. So that vacuum has been exploited by certain political parties, and they have been what you call, the BJP has always said, and the RSS also, that there's been policy of appeasement. But mind you, the policy of appeasement, it has actually been detrimental to, and as you mentioned, to Muslims. And as you mentioned rightly, Sachar Committee report said, see, there were non-BJP governments for almost like 50, 55 years. So if they were very balanced or this thing, why didn't Muslims in our country progress as much as they should have been, as they should have? So
Yeah.
it's very clear that, and now this government, see all the schemes which they have launched, whether it is Ujjwala scheme, providing gas connection, whether it is providing houses. Prime Minister Modi also himself said, did they discriminate that, okay, if he is a Muslim, he will not get the free house. If he or she is a Muslim, so they will not get the gas connection. No, no such discrimination has been done. In fact, they have been benefited immensely. So I would say that if we stop looking at this government from a particular stereotype perspective, so things would be much more clearer.
So let me, our own India has a major problem in terms of the healthcare, in terms of the climate change, unemployment, jobs, and security and safety of the minorities of the Muslims. India's economy is in tank. India's foreign direct investment is not going. They're not going. They just withdrew $4.4 billion in this last year. Isn't that the time to work together to help shape a better future together, rather than talking about the discriminations, the hostility, whether they can get a gas or not? And that's the religious in our country. We welcome people to come to this our shore because of the religious prosecutions and inclusive economic mobility. And United States has prospered. Obviously, it has the largest resources in the world. It's a very powerful country, but it is because we provided them the freedom of press and freedom of religion, and they should be. And that's what the Hindus have in this country. You say Google CEO is an Indian. Microsoft. Do you think they will get a Muslim will get the opportunity? Anybody will get that opportunity? India, probably not. So we have to examine our own behavior. Is how, rather than talking about, that's my take, that's my view, rather than talking about the oppositions, that brings the polarize, and polarization is weakens the democracy. That brings the divisiveness. We got to figure out how to unify people together, and that's something that we all have to do. So, as you know, there are a lot of things that binds together Muslims and Hindus, because the fact their bonds are stronger than the differences that too often drive them apart, right? And so tell me a little bit about, do you think that, so you said it very eloquently, that India does not have a bias against the Muslims or minorities or Dalits, right? You said that. They're not, the BJP is not at war with the Muslim, which is true, which is what you're saying, correct? Which is a wonderful thing to do. So I want to change the subject to talk a little bit about some other things about the international media. We talked about it, right? The isolation and the humiliations of your foreign minister. He did not want to go and talk to the Foreign Relations Committee chairman, who's a good friend of Elliot Engel, who lives next door to me, because you have to face it. If you don't have anything to hide in Kashmir or anything else, you got to go have a civil discussion. One of the quality of the leader is humility, civility, and kindness. So India has taken a huge beating in the international media. How do you propose to correct this perception that makes the India remains an attractive place for foreign direct investment, as India needs a lot of money, close to $1 trillion to build its infrastructure? I go to Aligarh from Delhi and I couldn't find a place for a restroom to wash my hand. Isn't this something that is the basic necessity of the people's life? You live in Delhi, you are probably belong to elite family, so you cannot see through the eyes of the people who are poor, right? So tell us a little bit about what needs to be done in this regard
See, one
about the
that I don't
international
belong to a
isolation.
big family. I belong
That's
to a
okay.
middle class family. Yeah,
Me neither.
I have studied in government school, and
uh,
I studied in a government university. But of course, I still would say that people like us who live in cities, they are much more privileged than people who live in remote areas, and they don't have access to some of the basic facilities. Yes, of course, that's a challenge which every government has been facing. And because see, one of the key issues is that India is a country of almost now 1.3 1.4 billion people. So to make things happen, and then we have had the colonial what you call legacy also, or I would say the excess baggage which we were carrying. So I think the first, say, about 30 40 years, and I would appreciate it's that not that Congress didn't do a good job. They built some very good institutions and at the institutional mechanisms, which was very much necessary and which has stabilized Indian democracy. So one is that. Second is that I think as far as isolation in foreign media is concerned, or isolation in what you call on the global stage is concerned. See, when it comes to foreign media, we have been interacting with foreign media representatives here also. Unfortunately, there are certain stereotypes, as I said earlier also, which have been propagated that okay, BJP supports militant Hindu philosophy, and but it'll take some time, to correct that perception. But of course, I agree with you on one point, that I think this government should have done more in terms of communicating its intent and what it wants to do and how it wants to do. I think the communication strategy of the government needs to be more robust, so that unnecessary apprehensions are not created. So I would suggest that if this on our at our level, we have kind of been interacting with the foreign media. We have also put up a website where all the facts about CAA and NRC are there, and with the original documents, it's called cab.getfacts.in. Uh, but I think at the level of the government, they need to do more. And I hope that over a period of time, this perception will be corrected. Because exactly, in Indian media also, there used to be a stereotype image of BJP and sometimes RSS also. But over a period of time, when we were able to communicate to them and we were able to show them, okay, what we really are, so that perception got corrected, so much so that today people feel that okay, the whole of media is controlled by us. So
well,
though that is not the case,
but Arun,
in
I
India
can
there
vouch
is
from
an
my
absolute freedom of expression.
from
See,
my own
frankly,
personal.
yeah, I
Go ahead.
just want to make one, because you
Sure.
also talked about freedom of expression. See, there are so
The
many
freedom of
websites
press
which are,
also.
pardon.
Freedom of press also. Freedom of press, you can also, and human right violation, the three pillars of democracy. Can you shed some light on it? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
see, freedom of press, as far as freedom of press is concerned, I think India has got absolute freedom of press. There are so many websites, there are so many newspapers which are running and which are totally anti BJP, which are totally slamming BJP government left, right, and center. But there has been but they are publishing their newspapers. There is no pressure on them. Nobody has been put behind the bar for that. No action has been taken. No advertisements have been cut for them as far as the government is concerned. So one is that, and the second thing, as far as the human right violations are concerned, see, we do not agree with the basic concept of human rights as defined by the Western framework. We have
So what
our
is your
own
definition?
concept.
What is
See,
your
our
definition?
concept of human rights is, I'll tell you, I'll, as far as I know, whatever little I know, our concept of human rights is that we need to consider our duties first and rights later. So if
Yeah, but that's
everybody
not a human
considers,
right.
yeah, yeah, I'm
That
saying
is
if everybody
that is
considers,
basically putting your own personal agenda on the top of the human right. And I want to talk about freedom of press. I know, and I do not know, but I've seen in the press that there are several Times of India and Hindu, many other, and I can tell from personal thing that if I write I write a column every month. You've seen it, right?
yes,
Correct?
yes, of
In
course.
Hindustan Times and Times of India, and also write it for Tarun. And I must tell you, it's very disturbing, alarming that if it is a critical of the government, they will not publish it. And you talk about as you probably know, that the Indian government puts an ad in some of these newspapers, so there's a stream of revenue for the Indian papers. And if they write anything which is a critical, and you can help to do that. You can help to tell them this is something unacceptable in a democracy. We do not want to become a dictator society, which is what China is. Despite the fact that China's economy is the best in the world, obviously they are second largest, what I call economy in the world. But I do not subscribe to the dictatorship. I like the democracy, and democracy has its own challenges. They Going back to some of the newspapers, it's 15 to 20% of the revenue they derive from the government. They're basically saying that they're taking it out because they're critical of the government. And I just heard and I saw rather than bringing the people together, and I have nothing to, I know I met Prime Minister Modi many times when I traveled with President Obama. I met him after that. He's a great guy. But talking about Pakistan, it's not going to get anywhere. Let's figure out how we work together. So, and you are in a great position to basically work with them. They're not going to listen to you all the time, but if they listen a little bit, it could make a difference, right? So, is there anything, Arun, that you want to tell to the audience? Because you're doing a great job. You have and to the audience to make them feel that we are in this together.
I just want to tell the audience that the basic Hindu philosophy believes in tolerance and coexistence, and that's why, right from Parsis to Jews to Christians, everybody who came to India was assimilated within the society. India has been one country, or Hindu society has been one society which has never attacked any other country as far as the ancient India and medieval time is concerned. I'm not talking about the Mughals. But currently, of course, I think there is a churning which is going on within the society. And there is a battle of narratives, as I said, about the idea of India. And I think the essence of democracy is that we can agree to disagree. I would only request that you look at the real facts and figures, and there's a certain propaganda also which goes. But kindly look at the facts and figures and not the narratives as they are told by a certain section of people. We respect that also. I'm not saying that. But let the dialogue be there. Let this battle of narratives be there, and let the cacophony comes down a little bit, and let there be more saner voices, more rational voices. And last thing is, I think the most important thing in India right now is that we need a very robust and progressive Muslim leadership, because until and unless that happens, this divide is going to widen further, and it is detrimental for the whole society as well as the country.
So to answer, very well said, Arun. You articulated your thoughts in a very effective manner, and about the Muslim. I mean, they do have their own battles, It took a long time to build that kind of society in America. We're still experimenting our democracy after 220 years in America. So it is the responsibility of the majority, which you and others helps them to understand that we need a not necessarily progressive, we need a leadership in the Muslims and the minority and Dalit community to bring people together. Your points are very well taken. They are fractured, they're divided, they have their own personal agenda, which is no different than anybody else. But that is not going to make people to bring people together. And together, diversity, we should be able to embrace them and celebrate them because the religious diversity brings people together, makes us stronger. And when you're stronger, you can help shape a better future for India. Do you have anything else to say before we close our conversation? And I want to,
I just
okay.
want to thank you for inviting me and for letting me share my views. I'm sure that uh, this is in the true spirit of healthy dialogue. So it was a privilege and it was a wonderful experience to be here. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Arun, and thank you for watching the show. And this is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.